Very well, guys. So before we jump onto the next chapter, which again, as I mentioned, is going to be a very technical chapter because we're going to go through retopology, I wanted to celebrate the fact that we finished our high poly with a very nice clay render. So a clay render is a way in which we can present our work, and it works especially well for high poly such as this one because it allows us to see all the detail that we have. So there's a couple of things that we're going to have to set up here. First of all, we're going to create something called an infinite background. So Shift A, we're going to create mesh, and we're going to create a plane. Make the plane a little bit bigger, something like this is fine. And grab this edge in this case, because it's going to be on this side, and we're going to extrude this on the Z-axis up. Then we're going to grab this edge right here, and we're going to bevel it a little bit heavily, something like that. And we're going to give this a couple of segments. There we go. So now we shade smooth, and that's it. We're going to go back to the options here to the material colors so that we can actually see what's going on. This image plane, we don't need it anymore, so I'm just going to hide it for now. And we're going to jump into our camera, but we don't have a camera, you say. Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to go into camera, and I'm going to call this camera ShotCam. And this is the camera that we're going to be using. So now if I press this, I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to press the letter N, and on the view options, I personally like to use this camera to view option so that we can frame where our render is going to be happening. So usually for this kind of renders, one of the things that we do is we just do like a front view, a side view, and a back view, right, of the element. So I'm gonna go right here. I'm gonna bring the floor down a little bit so the axis is kind of like floating there. There we go. And this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna scale the plane in the y-axis so that we don't see it outside of the element. And here's a couple of options. One option is to actually duplicate the object and rotate it around, but we're already at 8 million polygons, so I'm a little bit concerned that that might generate some issues on other parts of the element. So we're just gonna stay with something like this for now. However, what I do want to do is I want to make sure that all of our elements are inside of the same group. So I'm gonna grab all of these guys and get them inside of the handle high group, which should be all of the elements. It seems like we're missing this one right here. There we go. That's perfect. And the reason why I want to do this is so that I can very quickly select them, and if I need to rotate them, I can just rotate them as a whole. So remember, unfortunately, we cannot select the collection. The collection is not, again, selectable. But yeah, it's just a... We just have a quick access to all of the points right here. We could parent some points to others, but I really don't see that we're going to need to do that. Now, in order to get a nice clay render, we're going to have to use something called an HDRI. This is something that we're going to be seeing a little bit more in depth once we go into the rendering chapter, which is going to be the final chapter. But there's a very, very powerful site called Polyhaven. And Polyhaven has all of this very cool HDRIs that we can get our hands is that the proper phrase? We have all of this all of these HDRIs that we can use. So in this particular case, I'm gonna go for a very simple soft light for our element. You usually, whenever we're doing this sort of like clay renders, you don't want to have a lot of contrast on your render. You want to have some very soft lights, and then we're gonna be adding the contrast with the lights that we choose. So, for instance, this one right here, this yoga room, it's perfect. It has a warm color. It's got a soft shadow, so this is really, really good. I'm gonna download this, and as we've done with everything else, I'm gonna get this into our project. So, let's go here to our weapons. Axe project, source images, and that's where we're going to have it. You're going to have it available as well. All of these are CC0, so they're perfectly fine for commercial use. And here, I'm going to go to the environment, and under color, I'm going to select environment texture. And I'm going to open that specific one. So we go here, Axe project, source images, and we're going to open our yoga room 4K. So when we do this, what's going to happen now is if we go to render mode, which is this little circle right here, you're gonna see that we're now inside of this yoga room, and this yoga room is actually throwing light into the scene. If you remember, well, right now we're in Eevee. We're gonna change that shortly. But one of the things that I want to do is I want to select the volcano here, and in the materials, we're gonna assign a new material. So I'm gonna delete that material. I'm gonna assign a new material, and I'm gonna call this material clay. I usually like to use the M letter or M flag to know that that's going to be a material. On the colors, I'm going to go for a warmer color, so something like a dark brown color, so that we can actually see a little bit of things over there. The roughness, we're going to bring the roughness up a little bit more, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So now, if we want to make sure that all of the other objects have this thing, I'm going to select all of the other objects, and at the end, I'm going to select the volcano. I'm going to go to Object, Link Transfer Data, and we're going to link materials. So what's going to happen there is, or what should happen there, is that all of the objects should have the other material. Did I mess something here? Let's try this again. So all of this, and then at the end, the volcano, object, link transfer data, and we link materials. That's really weird. I'm not sure why it's not taking the material, but it should be taking it. Let me check 1 second. Yeah, I'm not sure why it didn't work. I literally just did it while not recording and it works. So that's the way to do it. You just select everything at the last. You select the material that you want to link to, and then you just link materials. And as you can see, all of them are inheriting the material now. This one over here, I'm going to add a new material. This is going to be a, let's call this MBG, which is background material. And we're going to make this like a dark color right here. Perfect. Now, there's a couple of things that you're going to have to do. If you have a GPU card on your computer, laptop, or desktop, and it's an NVIDIA GPU, you can actually go to Edit, Preferences, and in System, you can use your CUDA cores of your graphics card to get a very nice and fast render. You're going to have to go over here to the rendering, and we're going to change this to cycles, and we're going to change the device to GPU compute. So now, if I were to jump to rendering, you can see right here, the GPU is going to kick in, and look at how nice this looks. This is going to give us the actual render of our clay object. And the cool thing is I can go to any of these objects, and if I go to the materials, I'm going to be able to change the way the materials work. So for instance, if I bring the roughness down, I'm going to have a little bit more glossiness, which is going to allow me to see more of the detail of the element. Now that we have this, we can start playing around with some lights to make this thing look really, really, really nice. Actually, let's go to the options right here, and let's do like a traditional, nowadays with social medias and all of this, it's a lot easier or a lot more common to do like square compositions. So I'm going to do a 2048 by 2048, and I'm going to do like a very nice clay render here on the front view. There we go. I'm going to press C and go back to solid mode. And then I'm going to right click here on the border of my like window, and I'm going to do a vertical split. This is going to allow me to have two different windows. And now on this window, I can again activate C and go to material preview, or render in this case, right there. And this one, we can go into perspective mode, and we can position our lights and everything so that this looks as nice as possible. This one right here, I definitely want the material to be a lot darker. So I'm going to go pretty much like black. And on the roughness, I'm going to increase the roughness quite a bit. I'm going to bring the specular down as well, so that this material is a lot more like a matte, flat material. That way, the most important thing here is going to be our axe. Now, one of the things that I want to do is I actually want to go to the environment, remember, where we plugged in the world. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this world to be less intense. So I don't want as much light coming from that particular element. So I'm going to set this to 0.2. And what this is going to do, as you can see, it's going to darken everything. Let's go 0.1, like really, really dark. And now I can make some artistic decisions on where I want to place my lights. So I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to add a light. Over here, light. I'm going to add a spotlight. And this spotlight, I'm going to use something called the 3-point light setup. It's a very classic way to light something, and it's going to give us a really, really clean result. So I'm going to position this point light at a 45-degree angle, coming in this case from the left of the object. And we're going to increase the intensity of this light quite a bit, something like, I don't know, like 2000. And as you can see, we get a very, very nice light right there. I'm going to increase the radius. This is going to make the light or the effects a little bit softer. And then I definitely want to increase the angle as well, so that we don't have like a weird shadow on the back. There we go. Now I can see that the material is a little bit glossy. So I'm going to go back to the material, and I'm going to increase the roughness a little bit more, because I don't want this material to be super, super glossy. I want it to be a little bit flatter. So let's try something like 0.5. Nice. Now I'm going to add another light, Shift A. It's going to be a mesh light. Sorry, it's going to be an area light. And this area light is going to be on the back here. It's going to be on the other side of the element, and it's going to be pointing to the back parts right here. This is going to be a rim light. I'm going to increase the intensity quite a bit as well. Let's go 2000. And as you can see, this is going to give us a very, very nice effect right there on the top. I'm going to move it so that it's not really affecting this. I'm going to position it so that it's pointing towards our axe. Now we can go back to our environment and be like, hey, you know what? I want a little bit more strength. Let's try 0.4. It's going to bring more light into our scene, and it's going to look a little bit more realistic because the bounce light is going to be affecting everything in our scene. Let's do 0.5 in this case. There we go. That looks really, really, really nice. And once we have this, the only thing that we need to do is we need to maybe change a little bit of the colors. So for instance, this backlight right here, I think it might benefit from being a little bit cooler. So I'm going to bring the color into the blues. So that way we can get this very, very nice image here for our axe. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The last thing we need to do if we want to save this, remember how I told you that we could save our little barrel and show it off to people? Well, this is definitely something that you can show off to people. Look at how nice this sculpture looks. I'm gonna go render, and we're gonna render the image. This is gonna render at 2K, so be patient and wait for the denoiser to kick in. I don't know what that is. Let's stop the render real quick. Oh, I know what that is. That's the blocking. As you can see, the blocking, even though it's hidden, it's still over here. So that whole collection, I'm just gonna, let's get this out of the collection or just give it into the other collection. So I don't want anything from this collection to be rendered. So that's the war riff and the 2 blockings. Very, very important. Don't forget about those. I'm gonna go to the render options again as well, or one more time, and I'm gonna set this to 30 seconds. And I'm gonna render and render image. So it should give the system 30 seconds to do the best job it can to render something here out of our element. Look at that. That looks really, really good, my friends. That looks really good. So yeah, that's it. Feel very proud that you made it all the way to this position. Now, this doesn't mean that we are like completely finished, of course. If you see something here, for instance, I'm seeing some proportions, like this thing here looks a little big. If you see some proportions are a little bit too big, too small, if you want to change things around, this is the moment to do it. I'm going to be taking a couple of minutes after I finish recording this video to do just that. But as you can see, we've gone from the very basic blocking all the way to this like very nice result right here. And once we finish with the textures, oof, this guy is going to look amazing. So congratulations on getting up to this point. Again, get to this point. Do not skip ahead. Do not try to see what's going on next, because if you skip ahead, then you're going to miss on a lot of things and you're not going to learn as much as if you were to do this whole exercise. So make sure to do the exercise, and I'll be seeing you back on the next chapter.